Hello, this is Sherry Kirchhoff, and welcome to another Hippie Eclectic Hope for Yang update. A lot of good stuff going on, where my updates have usually been full of what has been discussed on the Stalking Rapist website, more commonly known as Talking Parents, but in my case it's a Stalking Rapist. I haven't been on there this past week. I found a way to silence the alerts that let me know when he's messaging me 5 times or more a day, demanding visitation, demanding items he already has, demanding items that don't exist, demanding weapons. I have better things to do with my day than keep being drugged back to the Stalking Rapist chat log to see what he wants from me now or what he's lying about now. It's stupid and it's repetitive and it's not getting me any further. I have plenty of documentation where he's, shirking his responsibilities happily, joyously, declaring his classes to be irrelevant, his child support payments, he's making lies about them being paid, taken out of his check, the funds, and that's obviously not the case. He's lied in court about being employed full-time, where my neighbors have seen him flying cardboard on 6th and York saying, "Homeless, please help." So if you see the guy from the Civil Assist video on 6th and York or Alameda in Quebec or 11th in Yosemite, he might be there, but the same strung out Colonel Sanders looking guy from the Civil Assist video flying cardboard that says "Homeless, please help," feel free to roll your window down and let him know that he's full of shit, because these people are scamming every day. There's people who legitimately need help, and then there's folks like my rapist and former owner who is using a slab of cardboard to beg money off the people at Denver while he's avoiding his responsibilities to his former property. 1 second. So, and then, telling me over the Stalking Rapist website, one of the last messages I saw was that his work ticket, when he was seen flying cardboard, he had a work ticket that said he was working somewhere in Golden. Now, work ticket is a phrase, if you're familiar with the temp service, system of doing things. You choose to show up to the temp service, they might choose to give you a ticket with a work address, and they may have a van driver who will give you a ride if you don't have transportation. So if he's getting work tickets, he's not actually employed full-time. He's choosing to go in as he wishes. And he's hiding his child support requirement because the payments aren't being taken out of his check as they should be. So for me to keep going on the Stalking Rapist website and calling him on his criminal activity and making my own demands for my sons and my rights to child support payments and safety and closure, I've been met with lies and denials. But, I have enough documentation of Thomas's just, arrogant, ignorant way of dodging his responsibilities, just proudly declaring his parenting classes and anger management classes to be irrelevant and telling me lies about child support and employment and everything else. So, and then making all these demands several times a day, every day. In short, the Stalking Rapist website has served its purpose in providing me with the documentation of his criminal activity and, his marijuana and knife sales, and, enough documentation of his lies on other subjects. So, and his unwillingness to comply with his responsibilities. So I've got enough of that documentation. It doesn't do any good to continue conversing with the man because all he's going to do is lie and brag his way. It's dumb and non-productive. So after having shut off the alerts, I haven't been there all week. I'm probably just going to make one more trip there tomorrow to get, picture logs, screenshots of the chat logs, so I can use them as evidence in my cases with the NAN, the NAACP, Change.org, everybody else I'm working with here. And one more update on that front. I have a new legal resource that a friend of mine has been working with in the past. I'm not sure exactly who they are yet, but a friend of mine has had his own legal difficulties and discrimination issues, as he's disabled. So he is passing me along this legal resource for a group that, also helps change the laws and defend the righteous laws and change the corrupt laws with regards to the rights of disabled people. So I have, he's had great success with them in the past. So, I'm pretty optimistic that between the agencies I'm already working with and this additional agency that my friend is passing along to me, I have high hopes that I'll be able to, express why the visitation and custody laws need to be changed and how, what better options are there. And that leads me to my next topic for today's update. I am almost done with my, and my friend told me to refer to my written works as his discovery reports. Basically how I'm covering where the corruption in the laws defends criminal behavior and abusive behavior and punishes survivors and all this and that. And I also have, my policy proposal improvements in my report. The first proposal being to, instead of doing institutionalized supervised visitation where it's super expensive, the abusive parent, former parent, chooses when and how often they pay for visits, and then the custodial parent is then forced to come up with that same amount of money to pay them, even if the abusive parent isn't paying child support, alimony, other necessary, requirements. It got dark all of a sudden, had to turn some lights on. But anyway, my first policy proposal is, instead of the expensive industrialized supervised visits where your child becomes completely helpless and put in an institutionalized setting that's sort of made to look like home, but it's an institution. It's so obviously an institution. And it's an unfamiliar territory. You're bringing your child, dropping them off with strangers, and trusting them to bring your child into a room face to face with your abuser who you've had to escape from, and then because this babysitter is there, she is, or he, this, corporate, it's all racketeering, but this, racketeering agent takes your child into the room where they pretend your abuser is a safe and loving parent, and that you should have this fun little visit with them where we've spent this year becoming safe from the abuser. He's being dragged face to face with him, where this, this racketeering agent is just delighted to take his money, willingly, and steal from me by force, and try and convince my son that this dangerous predator is a safe, loving parent, a daddy who misses my little boy so very much because he used to be able to control him and hit him and scream at him and abuse him and reward him for beating me. And this racketeering agent gets to see this little pageant show put on by the abuser. Oh, I miss when we were a family. I love you so much. You're my precious little guy. Just bullshit, because the whole time he was here, it was all about force, dominance, control. Aaron existed in order to fetch Thomas's weed pipe. Aaron existed in order to beat me on behalf of Thomas. When Aaron would club me with the toy and, injure me, he would be rewarded with McDonald's and toys from Walmart and going for car rides and all this and that. He was rewarded for fighting with his classmates. He was rewarded for injuring teachers. My son was rewarded by our abuser for continuing the abuse cycle. There was never any parental love. It was all about training. Thomas beat the crap out of Aaron September of 2017 because he was potty training. And that didn't fit into Master Thomas's plan, because he wanted us to be dependent on him for the cost of diapers, and he wanted Aaron to be kept out of schools because he was under the impression that preschools and kindergartens and elementary schools will not allow a child into class if they're not potty trained. So potty training was expressly forbidden. Aaron would, caught himself calling me, taking my hand and taking me into the bathroom to help him put his pants down so he can go pee potty. And Thomas beat the shit out of him and screamed at him, dragged him away from the bathroom door, just made him know under no uncertain terms that the bathroom was a no place. Aaron stays out. Aaron doesn't go potty. Aaron uses diapers. He beat the shit out of my son to make him afraid of the potty, to keep him dependent on diapers from Master. Because Thomas Stetzer didn't know about a Medicaid benefit that would get my son his diapers on Medicaid after he turns 4. Because after you turn 4, you're still on diapers. It's a medical diagnosis. You're incontinent. This is what Thomas Stetzer caused my son to go through with his brutality and his force and his dominance and his ownership and his control. That's the extent to the hell that my son and I escaped. And so in my discovery reports, I have written how video visitation would be far better than supervised, institutionalized racketeering visitation, because you can go on Skype or Facebook chat or whatever, and you can have a friend or a neighbor or a therapist or somebody volunteer or somebody be hired or appointed, but it's not going to cost you any $50 an hour to do it, if you're lucky, up to $75 an hour. it's, a video chat conference. And enabling a process like that instead of the institutionalized visitation, both parties, well, all parties, both parents and any children, will be in their comfortable environment during the video visit. You're not in an institution with strangers in a strange room being dragged face to face contact with your abuser who beat the shit out of you for trying to use the bathroom. That's not going to happen with video visitation. And another, policy proposal I suggested in my discovery reports is to require verification of responsibilities being met. Like, excuse me, back's a little uncomfortable. But for instance, there's a huge difference between, say, a hypothetical parent who is overcoming drug addiction, going to rehab, staying sober, taking parenting classes, taking anger management classes if necessary, taking life skills courses or, future planning classes. They have this stuff. Or gaining employment, or, anything that shows that you're putting forth effort. You're making your child support payments, your spousal support payments, you've got your legal fees covered, you're paying for your classes, you're going to your classes, you're graduating from your classes, you're finding employment, you're keeping a job for at least 6 months, whatever, whatever situation you have, whatever you can show that, proves that you're putting forth the effort you need. There's a big difference between the hypothetical parent who's struggled with past life choices and, be it with drugs or anger or, what have you, but they're actually doing their part to make amends and improve their situation and be a responsible parent. There's a huge difference between that hypothetical and the situation that my son and I and so many other surviving families are dealing with, of a deadbeat derelict who is either perpetuating the abuse that they were freely able to inflict, or they're just not doing their court-ordered responsibilities, like their classes, their paid support orders, their other responsibilities that they may have to their case. They may be slinging drugs, like my former owner, out there selling gram bags of weed in Denver because the dispensary isn't easy enough. Or the situation where there's ill-gotten wealth of, money made under the table, money made in other criminal endeavors, money made by exploiting another target as the predatory behavior continues. There are so many ways, and so many reasons that irresponsible, that, as I've said, the deadbeat derelict parent, there's a big difference between a struggling parent who's trying and a deadbeat derelict. That's I've pretty much got it covered. But in order to defend the right of a struggling parent to, persevere and make that effort and, re-secure their rights, and also to help a surviving family, get out of the cycle of abuse put on by the predator they've escaped, in order to serve both ends and help, everyone involved, wouldn't it just be easier to show verification of the steps you've taken to make amends? If the court has ordered that you take child, parenting classes, because there's a child involved. You take your class, you show your certificate of completion, any other notes that the instructor may have, made for you, etc. Show your verification. Show proof that you're making your child support payments or your spousal support payments. Show proof that you have this new job. Show proof that you're not homeless. Show proof that your situation has improved in any way that is required or applicable to your case. And, in showing that verification, you should, by all rights, be able to re-secure your rights. You're showing your estranged family that you're doing what you can and should to make the situation better. So, you should be given your rights for video visitation at that point, and other parental rights. If you're doing well enough to build up to an unsupervised, a weekend or, shared custody situation where it's going to be a good situation and not a forced hostage swap. I've done the child pickup and drop-off routine with my ex's child and in Wisconsin, and now doing even the supervised visits with my own son is nerve-wracking, because I don't know if he's got somebody hiding in the bushes looking out for us. I don't know if in an unsupervised situation if he's just going to take Aaron and bolt and disappear. I don't know. And my proposed changes would remedy this. Surviving parents and children would receive the funds that they're supposed to be receiving. And, if there's any evidence of abuse or stalking or other predatory behavior, show that verification. I mean, there's so many ways that just simply a verification method and a video visitation method, these two very simple ideas, could change and improve a custody battle, especially a rough one, for just so much the better. So, that's, kind of my updates in a nutshell. Getting my reports written. Once I, complete my discovery report, I'll be posting it on my Patreon site. It's going to be a patron-only article, though, hopefully to encourage patrons. I've got my public articles where I've, recorded and submitted the documentation from the divorce hearing itself, from how existing laws are violated, and the laws that are on the books are just crackers anyways. My verification of that all is free on my Patreon site, because, I need people to be aware of the situation and the rights that are being violated and how discriminatory these courts are against single parents and against the disabled. So, that knowledge needs to be out there. But my more organized writings and reports, I will be submitting, as patron-only posts. Because, it's important, but this is, my life. I need to, as I'm not, receiving the money that my son and I need, and I don't have time to market my businesses because I'm too busy corresponding with everyone. I need to be able to work for a living and, have encourage patronage to, my endeavors, my jewelry, my graphics, my Patreon page. I need, the help from people who care and people who want to see my son and me continue living, instead of waiting for Master Thomas to kill us because I don't have the resources of the people to stay alive, just be killed in obscurity. That's the alternative. That, if my son and I don't fight the corruption inherent in the Denver courts and in the Colorado laws with regards to custody and domestic violence and slavery and rape. These practices are enforced in the Denver County courts and in the Colorado law system, legal system. It's enforced. And so, I need help and support in order to fight that corruption. I can't do it on my own, and I can't do it without, the funds necessary for my son and myself to live. Otherwise I'm going to need to go back out on the cardboard, especially if I'm going to have to be paying for these visits, $50 an hour, 2 hours a week. It's my entire TANF benefit. So, that's going to make my son and me become homeless, while child support's not being paid and alimony's being illegally denied because I'm disabled. So, we can't fight this battle by ourselves, and we can't fight it while we're broke without any resources. And I can't continue this fight for, our rights and to end the practices of rape and slavery in Colorado, if I have to chase a buck, if I have to go back out on the cardboard. So, I need to be able to support myself and my son without being shanghaied by the government and restricted by our former owner. So, as I'm making progress, reaching people and getting my case opened with different agencies to help stop this process of enforcing, human trafficking and domestic violence and sexual assault. As I fight to make these changes, I can't fight it empty. So, that's why, I'm trying to be an independent mom. I'm trying to launch my businesses while I'm trying to, compose my discovery reports so that this situation doesn't continuously happen to women, especially women of color or women with disabilities who are continuously, exploited by abusers. And there are so many men I know too who have been exploited by someone who was younger, or someone who, if the man was disabled. I've seen so much dehumanization, and just simple practices like a video visitation for children involved in the case, and the ability to verify life progress you've been making or the lack thereof. Two very simple ideas could make, a custody situation in a split family just so much easier and safer and more convenient and less costly and just better for everyone involved. And abusers wouldn't be able to continue the abuse and the neglect of their responsibilities and their survivors while retaining all of their rights. You can't keep your rights while you're infringing on somebody else's and denying them their rights. That should not be how this works. However, we all know that the system is just so corrupt and backwards in so many ways. But these two very simple changes could make such a massive difference in having video visitation and verification of lifestyle choices, and good decisions that you've been making in the time since. So, I don't know. It's very important that these changes be made, so surviving families can't continue to be exploited. So, thank you for, being part of the Eclectic Hope human rights movement. And, thank you for, caring about the well-being of myself and my son as we continue fighting these laws in Colorado that perpetuate and enforce domestic violence and sexual attacks and just human captivity. It's just a different form of human captivity when the current system won't allow a surviving family to move across town without road papers like any other slave. That's not acceptable. And, as I've said, video visitation could solve that inability to move problem by letting you move. You can have a video visit from 500 miles away. It's cool. You could have a video visit from across the ocean. It's cool. And you can have these video visits if you're meeting your responsibilities, if you're taking your required classes, if you're paying your required support payments and other legal fees, if you can show that you've made better lifestyle choices, like, getting a job, getting a better job, getting a home, getting a better home, improving your situation. If you could show that, you should be able to have some rights. Whereas so many struggling parents who are trying are being shut down. And that's not right either. So, two very simple policy proposals that could change so much in the whole custody and visitation muck. So, still making progress. Still, getting my case file opened in other agencies and making more contacts. But, I need the help and support of, people who care to, in order to make it even possible. Otherwise, it's just a matter of time before Thomas pulls his murder and abduction plot, and, that's not something that I'm willing and able to wait for. Failure to keep my son and myself safe is not an option. So, thank you again for being part of the Eclectic Hope movement, and, let's all just hope that President Andrew Yang can make it in the White House and make his 160 plus amazing policy proposals happen. Because, we need to fix this mess that the United States is in. We need to treat our people better, and we need to stop exploiting each other. So, let's make it happen together. Thank you. Have a blessed evening.